European leaders condemn the Hamas attack on Israel and repeat calls for a ceasefire on the first anniversary of the war in Gaza.
A number of Danish schools have begun implementing a mobile-free school policy for pupils.
After scores of its residents were killed during the October 7th surprise attack by Hamas on Israel, a kibbutz has turned into a ghost town.
1 year on from the October 7th attack, Israelis mark the solemn occasion with vigils and rallies. 1 year on from the October 7th attack that kick-started the Israel-Hamas war, over 350 people attended the site of the Nova Music Festival in southern Israel. They listened to the last song that rung out before hundreds of their friends and family members were gunned down or taken hostage by Hamas. In Jerusalem, hundreds protested through the streets before rallying outside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's home to mark the solemn anniversary. They called for the leader to broker a ceasefire with Hamas, ensuring the safe return of hostages.
אני רוצה להבטיח לכל 101 חטופים בשם כולנו, כל עם ישראל, שלא נפסיק להילחם, לא נפסיק להשמיע את הקול שלהם, לא נפסיק להתעקש על הדבר הערכי והמוסרי והבסיסי ביותר, שהם יחזרו הביתה בשלום כמה שיותר מהר.
Hundreds of protesters then stood in silence, listening to a siren marking another somber date in Israeli history, Holocaust Remembrance and Memorial Day.
It was both a show of strength and support for Matteo Salvini. On Sunday, leaders of political forces within the far-right nationalist Patriots for Europe group came to the League Party's annual gathering in Pontida to defend the Italian leader, who faces a potential jail sentence in a migration trial. They stood united on stage under the slogan "Defending borders is not a crime."
Non possono fermare la santa alleanza dei popoli europei che oggi nasce da Pontida. Vi voglio bene e vi do la mia parola d'onore che io non mollo e non mollerò mai.
From the president of Portugal's Chega party to Austria's Freedom Party and Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban, migration topped the agenda, along with the call for Europe to change its course.
Festeggiamo in Ungheria Salvini come un eroe, perché ha chiuso i confini e ha difeso le case degli italiani. Meriterebbe onorificenza e non procedimenti penali.
Matteo Salvini is using this event to raise his profile and gain support after Italian prosecutors requested a 6-year jail sentence for refusing to disembark 147 migrants when he was Interior Minister in 2019. Matteo Salvini launched a petition in his defense, which has garnered around 100,000 signatures so far, with more expected to be collected today. Supporters who signed the petition were given a special membership card from the League Party.
Servono a fare in modo che gli italiani capiscono cosa vogliono fare con quelle persone qua che vengono in Italia, cosa che vogliono fare. Io dico, è un'invasione, non è un'invasione, però è un momento critico e Salvini ha fatto quello che doveva fare e l'ha fatto anche benissimo.
Whether or not Salvini's support for Patriots for Europe, the third largest group in the EU Parliament, could distance him from ECR President and coalition partner Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni is too early to say. Giorgia Orlandi for Euronews in Pontida.
There has been some early reaction from European leaders on the first anniversary of the Hamas incursion into Israel, which sparked the war in Gaza. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the Hamas attacks, which saw 1,200 Israelis killed and 250 others taken hostage, were an example of unspeakable savagery. She reiterated her call for a ceasefire and the unconditional release of the Israelis still being held captive by Hamas in Gaza. Israeli authorities say almost 100 hostages remain in captivity, but fewer than 70 are believed to still be alive. In a video posted on X, Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz regretted that so much suffering, so many deaths had taken place on both sides of the conflict. He said the German government continues to push for a ceasefire so that the civilian population in the Gaza Strip can be better protected. On Sunday, the Israeli military announced a new air and ground offensive in Jabalia in northern Gaza, the site of a refugee camp dating back to the 1948 war surrounding Israel's creation. Israel reiterated its call for the complete evacuation of the area. Up to 300,000 people are estimated to have remained in the heavily destroyed north, while around 1 million fled to the south. Those fresh orders prompted thousands to flee the area, many leaving on foot, some using donkeys and carts. Palestinian authorities reported heavy Israeli strikes in Gaza on Sunday, with at least 19 people killed in an attack on a central mosque. Meanwhile, Israeli authorities have said they've put the country on high alert for potential attacks as they prepare to hold their own memorials for the victims of the 7th of October Hamas attacks.
Denmark has long been recognised as a pioneer in the use of digital tools in education, but it's now shifting away from this approach. A growing number of schools are implementing a mobile-free school policy, under which students are required to hand in their phones during the school day.
At this school in Denmark, pupils are required to leave their phones in a safe during the school day. This pilot program, which started in 2023, has gained support from both parents and teachers and is now a permanent practice.
Teachers at the school proposed a ban after witnessing how unrestricted mobile phone use harms students' concentration.
But a lot of pupils, they actually lost interest in learning, and so we had to do something about it. But a lot of the pupils felt that we took something away from them. And of course, we take their phones, but we also help them in the long run. And that's our responsibility as grown-ups and adults, to take responsibility. It's our future, you know.
In February, Denmark's Education Ministry announced new recommendations on digital device use at school.
If you look at in totality the different scientific approaches to studying concentration, memory, well-being, sleep, relationships, the value of the physical play and all that, then it's very clear that it points to putting a limit on the mobile phone usage, not forbidding them totally, but limiting, and in order to stimulate different kinds of activities.
When the ban was first implemented, teachers experienced strong resistance from students.
Felt like they were just like kind of unnecessary.
But some students say they have noticed changes in their peers' behaviour.
I mean, I definitely felt like I used my phone a lot more in school than I should have. But after the change, it helped a lot. And also like other people who used it a lot, it helped like just like talking with your friends more and like doing stuff outside of school too and not just looking at your phone.
In 2012, many municipalities purchased iPads for schools using government subsidies. But the reversal in Denmark's approach to technology and education reflects concerns about its impact on students' well-being.
After the shock of Hamas's massacre of Israelis on October the 7th, 2023, the Israeli government went well beyond its reiterated retaliation doctrine and hit deep to free the hostages and root out Hamas. Has Israel achieved its objectives? After months of harsh fighting, in early summer the IDF took control of the Philadelphia corridor, a highly strategic line route stretching along the border between Gaza and Egypt in the Rafah area. The IDF's deployment on the Philadelphia line created a strategic connection between Gaza and South Lebanon, provoking Hezbollah attacks. At the same time, Israel needs the Philadelphia corridor to cut the supply line for the Palestinians and clear Hamas's militant tunnels. Caught by surprise on October the 7th of last year, Israel suffered one of the deadliest terrorist attacks in its history and the first invasion of its national territory since 1948. Hamas-led Palestinian militant groups from Gaza attacked Israeli territory from sky, sea and land, killing 1,195 people, 815 of whom were civilians, and abducting 251. It was a so-called multi-domain attack, which in the eyes of Israel was a typical Iranian operational concept. On the same day, the Israeli cabinet launched Operation Sword of Iron, with the immediate objective of kicking Palestinian attackers out of Israeli territory and freeing hostages, and the long-term goal of ending Hamas. 1 year on, fierce urban fighting has killed tens of thousands of Palestinians, 7,500 of whom were children. Hospitals, schools and other facilities have been destroyed and 800 IDF members have lost their lives. On July the 31st, an Israeli attack in Tehran killed Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh and liberated more than 100 hostages, but more than 70 were reportedly killed. Yet Hamas has not been eradicated. Israel's government is concerned by the fact that Hamas could conquer the West Bank too.
The fact that there are no elections there is a sign of the fear that extremists like Hamas might take over the West Bank as well. Clearly, the answer is not indiscriminate Israeli settlement.
West Bank Palestinians have been denouncing the increasing number of Israeli ultra-nationalist settlements being created in their territories. Mostly moderates, their exasperation could favour Hamas's strategy of taking the West Bank.